Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Beyond the Line. Here's alongside with Patrick McKenzie, and we're going to take you beyond the line once again tonight. We got a great guest tonight. Our call-in number, please call in tonight. We'd love to have you as a guest, 347-324-5145. Once again, that number is 347-324-5145. Hey, Pat, why don't you introduce our guest tonight?
Absolutely, Drew. We've got a great guest lined up for tonight. LeeAnna Jonas, founder of Spirit Realm Investigative Project out of Colorado, has been on Paranormal Challenge, USS Hornet Edition, and will be coming up soon, from what I understand, an episode of My Ghost Story, which we'll talk a little bit later in the show on. Drew, if you, I know we've got her on the line. Why don't you go ahead and bring her in for us?
Absolutely, I can do that.
Hey guys,
well,
how's
Miss
it going?
LeeAnna, how are you?
How you
Good.
doing,
How you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Doing great.
Are you freezing your tails off in Wyoming?
Well, I am.
I got to tell you, I got up this morning. It was about 9 degrees or so here in central Kentucky, which is a little bit colder than normal and a lot colder than I like it. But how's things up there in Colorado?
It was a little crispy, windy today, but the sun came out. But it's supposed to get up in the 50s the next couple days and then drop back down. So we'll see how it goes.
Beautiful. Just so everybody knows, we had a chance to chat for a couple of minutes with LeeAnna before the show started. So LeeAnna knows my first question here is mostly a joke, but it does have a serious side to it. LeeAnna, my first question for you is, I'm wondering, I know that you're an all-female group, and the first thing that piqued my curiosity is, do you all always get along? How does that work for you, being an all-female group?
Well, actually, the group that I'm with right now, the three girls, we get along great. I can't say that happened in the past. You do have conflicts with different personalities, and I'll be all honest, women are harder because of the way we think and operate, and we're a little bit different than guys. We're not as casual as guys. We take things personally. We have mood swings, so...
No way.
There's a lot to contend with, and when you get egos together too, that clashes. It's not the easiest thing to get people, even a mixed group, co-ed group, to get the personalities to gel well. But right now I have Tawny and Allie, and we've been together. Allie's been with me 2 years, or I should say Tawny's been with me 2 years. Allie's been with me a year, and we have had no issues whatsoever, and it's so nice, believe me.
Fantastic.
So you thought that was a joke? You thought that was a joke?
Well, it was serious, but some people get offended to such things as and some people don't. It was a serious question, but it was. I guess it was more serious than a joking manner, but I know sometimes I've talked to groups of females that just they love each other to death, but just can't get along with each other. So
yeah. Well, hey, at least you didn't ask me if we PMS all the time. So
no, I wasn't going to touch that one, LeeAnna.
That's a little, yeah. We don't want to see that one go on. I could an investigation where you guys all coincide or whatever you guys call it there. And no, we're not going to go there. But I do got another question for you, LeeAnna. It's about I love your style of the non-provoking. I believe in that, but in the same sense, do you think there is a time to provoke every once in a while on the case, depending on
I do. And, when you learn the history, I'm sure a lot of groups do this. You go in, you do the background on the location, you interview the clients, you interview the people that have had activity happen to them personally, and you get a gist of what you're dealing with for the most part. There was one location that we had done in Central City, Colorado, where back in the 1800s, this one room, there was a group of men that had a club, and they would rent it out, and they would rape women in there. And I told both my gals, I said, look, I don't provoke, but I'm pissed. I don't want to deal with rapist, and I'm going to come off as such. So I let them know ahead of time because they've never seen me act that way. And I kind of had a chip on my shoulder, and as I was questioning, these men, I'm like, you think you're a big bad man, raping women? You think that's, that makes you great and big? So I started to try to tick them off. And I usually don't do that, but in that case, it was just, it just rubbed me the wrong way, and I thought this is what the mentality I'm dealing with, I don't think they'll have a problem with that. If anything, maybe they'll want to pipe up and say something. So that was probably the only location that I've really been that hardcore.
Well, I agree with you there, LeeAnna, and, I've got a different kind of take on it. I agree with you that we don't provoke either, typically, and if there's any provoking done, it's done by myself only. I never allow any of my other team members or anybody that's with us to provoke. But, there's provoking is not always negative. And I think there's a lot of time and place for it to provoke in a positive sense. Just encouraging communication is provoking.
Right.
So a lot of people put that negative spin on provoking, and it's not always negative, and it's not always uncalled for. I do agree with you, though. It's a very rare occasion that I'll provoke in a negative sense, and I would never do so in a client home, but more maybe, in a historic location or something. Yeah, I could see the cause for it, absolutely.
Yeah, because, in a client's home, you're going to stir up something that you can just leave and go home and they have to deal with. So I totally respect that. I did come across when we were in a jail, we already knew that we were dealing with a nasty entity, and I was kind of pushing it to communicate, and it did. It jumped out at Tawny. We've got it on tape, her reaction on video, and that's going to be on my ghost story. But, I'm just like, come on, guys. We're here. Let's do this, Let's quit pussyfooting around and let's do it. But then it got to the point by the end of the night, it wanted to push us. And with the ovulus, it started saying words like will, kill, blood, murder, and my one teammate is a medium. And I told her, you give me the safe word if they try to get into you, because a lot of them will try to possess her because they know how much she responds to them and is open to them. And it started to come after her, and she's like, it's trying to get in me right now. And I said, all right, you didn't play the game right. We're leaving. And we left. So that worked. I don't know if it was a good thing or not, but, in certain instances, yes, if you want to really get that communication, but for the most part, we're pretty respectful. It just depends on the situation.
I'm going to go in a little different direction here, and I hate to put you on the spot with this, and I may not be. I'm not trying to be, certainly, but I found it interesting. You're out in Colorado. You do a lot of investigations around mining areas historically. I grew up in eastern Kentucky is my background, and there's a lot of mining there with the coal. And I've noticed that there's a seemingly large amount of paranormal teams and a lot of paranormal experiences within the state, but especially in mining regions. My question is, have you experienced or in your investigating and research, do you think that mining or the geology or the disruption of the geology of an area has any role or play any factor in the paranormal?
Most definitely. You're dealing with, if there was any sacred ground from the Indians, which were very abundant out here in Colorado, you're dealing with mines that you have all these minerals, limestone, gold, silver, what have you, gems. I just think that when you disrupt a land like that and open it up, who knows what you're opening. I know it's a physical status, but it could also be in a dimension of a vortex, which we run into a lot of vortexes. believe it or not. So, yes, I do think desecration of the land will bring up more paranormal, regardless if it's human or not. You've got your elements. I mean, we're into the metaphysical side, too, so I've got a Wicca on my team. She's a high priestess, so there's a mesh of different beliefs. But we totally believe that there are other beings just besides us, and we're not talking aliens or anything, but, like elements, little gremlins, demonic, they don't look like anything we've ever seen before, but, kind of an animal characteristic to it. But, yes, I totally agree with you, and I think because there's so many nasty deaths that happen encased in the dirt and the minerals, that it absorbs the energy, especially the men who died there. And whether it be residual or it's an intelligent haunt, I just think the land and the minerals absorb that, and especially when it's encased underground. Now, we don't do mines per se. We don't get into the mines too much because most of them here in Colorado, they want you to have $1 million liability coverage to go in. So most of them won't even let you go in. But we do shaft houses, which are sitting above a lot of the holes underneath. And we've had unbelievable evidence from those areas.
Oh, and like you were saying too, LeeAnna, the fact, I mean, any time that you're moving anything, it could be home restoration to the mines, you're going to get that activity. I mean, when you restore a home, I'm sure you've seen it a lot too. People decide to do a renovations of their home or remodel, and next thing you know, bam, this activity spikes. It seems that any time that something is disturbed, it maybe draws energy out of the area, or they're unsettled. What do you think?
And right now within this last weekend, I've had a different take on some things. I met a gentleman that works with angels and a higher vibration, and I questioned him and I said, what is the existence in these dimensions? Now he told me, because I always thought that the dimensions of these spirits, that they just carry on their everyday lives and they see things the way that they were at that point. He tells me no. He says no. It's foggy, it's creepy, it's very, it's just space. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I don't know because I am not there, so I can't say. I can only take his word for it. But it makes you wonder really what their existence is and what they see. I guess I'm getting off the beaten path of the question, but I just think, I guess until we really get to that point, if we don't end up crossing and we end up getting stuck or we decide to stay, I guess we'll find out. But as investigators, that's the haunting question. We want to know really what is on that other side. What is their existence? I know for our team, we don't like to see anybody stuck. For some reason, they love the ovulus here. They love the ovulus. They can manipulate it. And we'll flat out ask them, do you guys need help? Because we do have the resources to try to cross them over. And some will say no and some will say yes. Help me, please. So at that point, then we will try. But there are some that just say no. So you're wondering, is it really that vast in that dimension? Or is it really just like how they live every day and they don't want to leave it? So it's a pretty...
It brings up a really good point, and I'm glad you mentioned that because, and I've posed this question before, and we've talked about it amongst ourselves with other investigators, and I posed the theory, or maybe postulated a question. Perhaps sometimes when we witness evidence of a residual haunting, it's not residual to them; it's actually intelligence. But our lives, while we're here alive, we're defined by patterns. I get up every morning at 4:50 and I get ready and I go to work. I'm at work at 6 o'clock. Sometimes we see the same pattern occurring over and over again, but we don't see any signs of intelligence from it. But perhaps we're just witnessing an actual intelligence going through a daily routine. And it is intelligence, but it can't view or see us, and maybe therefore, and don't have we can't witness that intelligence, so it seems residual. But that kind of fits the theory, that dimensions. Maybe there's spirits, energies trapped in a presence that they, see their past, or they think their, daily life's going on, or perhaps they just can't see us, or maybe anything. Who knows?
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that too, because there's times where I've asked them, I don't want to be disrespectful, but do you know you're dead? And
right.
We had a K2, for instance, once in the basement of this place that was well known to have a nasty entity in it. And I said, do you know that you're dead? And there was no response. I said, do you think you're alive? And it pegged red to my questions. So it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, what can they see of us? What is their comprehension of their life? Do they even know they're dead? Are they continuing in their life where they don't even know the difference?
Right.
And, it was really weird to talk to this guy that I met. He's kind of our side psychic now for our team. And it's just interesting. I could sit with him for hours and ask him what he thinks and what he's experienced. And he kind of blew me away, because everything that I believed in, he was kind of telling me differently. And I'm just like, who do you believe? Somebody in their reality, this is what they see. I can only go by the experiences that I have and what I've learned with spirits, with evidence and such. So it's like a huge it kind of took me right back to the first question. When you first start all this, you have all, what is the other side? What is, what makes up the dimensions? What makes up an existence we don't understand or we can't see? So it kind of bummed me out, because I thought I was figuring it out, and now I'm back to square one again, because, you hear this, and you're hoping that this person is right. And he made a lot of sense, so it made me question a lot.
Well, that's why we do the research that we do, is to try to find the answers to these questions. And it seems like to me, and I don't think I'd get argument from either one of you, LeeAnna or Drew, either one, that it seems like the more we research and the more we learn, the more we don't know.
Right.
I have so many. I've gotten examples that seem to prove almost every theory I've postulated. It just, we really. It seems like there's different levels and like you said, dimensions on the other side, and there's different spirit energies trapped in these, or choosing to stay in these different dimensions, and they seem to have different rules. Some know they're dead and know what year currently it is, and some don't and think it's another year. And I've even had examples where, I was given indications that they knew they were dead, but, if you asked for a time frame, they were, back in the 1800s still.
Wow.
They knew they were dead, but they didn't know the current time. So,
in fact, that's what I was just going to say. That I had an EVP one time. I asked what year it was, and next thing you know, on the EVP, clear as day, it says 36. That could have been 1836, could have been 1936, but it sure wasn't 2036. So, that kind of alleviates that number, unless we're dead and we don't know it. But I'm pretty sure we're alive. But, who's to say, I guess. If we're talking about, that. And that brings up a great thing, too. I want to kind of touch on this, too, a little bit, LeeAnna. I'm jealous. I really am. You got to go on the Paranormal Challenge on the USS Hornet. And how was that?
That was an experience. First off, we found out 3 days before we had to leave. And they were not paying for our flights. We had to get there ourselves. And, of course, at that late in time, it was too expensive to fly. So we hopped in a car and drove straight through. It was kind of a road trip / what the hell are we doing thing. And not to mention, in past lives, and I've been told this, and recently I just found out more, that I've drowned many, many times. To put me on a cruise ship is the most fearful thing I could ever think of, and it's kind of goes back to seeping past lives with this fear. So here I found, they didn't want to tell us where we were going until the last minute, and then they're like, well, by the way, you're going to be on a battleship, an aircraft carrier, and I'm like, oh, no.
Nice.
Talk about facing your fears. So when we got out there, that was one of the things I had to do was stand in front of that boat before the crew got there and try to deal with my fears, which was really strange because I thought I would be scared, and instead I became emotional. It's like this emotion came over me. I couldn't stop crying. I felt like I'd been there before. Maybe I was possibly a soldier on that ship at some point, because they did bring back all the World War II vets from England. So it was just, it was overwhelming, but I handled it. But let me tell you something, guys. To be under the pressure of people watching every move you make, you've got camera crew, you've got a sound guy, you're in a enclosed area. I mean, you think a ship would be huge, but really it's just chopped up into little hallways and stair walls. And the stairs are so steep that you have to grab onto the ropes that they have on the side, otherwise you're going to do a face plant. There's lips in every doorway that you have to make sure that you walk over. So it's totally different than anything that we're used to, not to mention the time frame. I mean, they take you through, one day you go through all the history, you better remember it all. Because you're going to have to touch base. You're going to have to remember where you need to go. This is your only shot to remember everything. And then the next day when you actually go in for the actual investigation, I mean, you got Zach on the phone, on the walkie-talkie going, okay, guys, you got, an hour now left. You better get going. And it's not a relaxed investigation. It's a pushed investigation, because you have to hit certain areas. You have to hit all the history to relate to the spirits and try to get some kind of communication. As you well know, you don't always get stuff when you go places. You don't.
Right.
So, you're against the gun to produce. So that in itself is so stressful. And then you hope that your team gels well and works with you. So that didn't really happen for us. We had one person who wasn't a team player, so that kind of added to the stress. So and there's a lot of things that happen that I won't even go into because it's just politics, but there's so much behind the scenes that people have no idea, and especially evidence review. Wow, what a cluster. You've got people running around talking. You're trying to go through EVPs. You've got hours of video, hours of audio to go through, and you got 4 hours to put something together.
Who were the judges on that episode, Leanna?
This is the funny part. Two of them I didn't even know. One gal is named Danielle something or another. She's an actress. She was in the movie Scream.
Right.
And apparently she does investigating on the side in L.A. I didn't even know who she was. We didn't get to talk to them or see them. Another gentleman was some kind of doctor of something. I've never seen him either. I didn't remember his name. Dave Schrader's the only one that I knew.
Yeah, I thought it might have been Dave. That's the reason I was asking. I've met Dave Schrader 2 or 3, 4 times, and I've listened to his show a little bit. So he's the only one that I seem to have any respect for at all, personally.
Well, Dave was he was a judge on every single show. So
yeah. I don't watch a lot of the paranormal television shows, and that's one I've seen a few occasions, and I did notice Dave on there when I watched it. The shows that I saw, though, and of course we all know that Zach's very, I'm trying to say controversial, but that's not really appropriate. He's very provoking in his show.
Right.
And that's what he does. And I noticed on Paranormal Challenge that the episodes I saw anyway seem to encourage the teams participating to provoke and kind of beat you up a little bit if you didn't. Did you encounter that at all? Or?
Well, believe it or not, guys, Zach took us aside, us girls, and he said, look, I provoke on the show, and he said, but I don't want you to do that. He said, this is a ship These are men that died on this ship for our country, and I want you to respect that. And I looked at him and I said, well, you don't have to worry about that with us. We don't provoke anyway. That wasn't even an issue for me. But on the other end, if you watch the show, the other team did provoke. Their team lead was very boisterous with the spirits. Now, I don't know if that was a man thing or trying to show power, but I don't know. I can't say whether he told us one thing and told them the other just to get a controversy between the two different styles. After all,
I want to cut in real quick, too, here. I understand, what you're saying there, Patrick, to a certain extent that Zach does have somewhat of a provoking nature to him. But in the same sense, I mean, look at some of the areas that he goes into where it's necessary to provoke, too. Zach can go both ways, and I'm not trying to defend Zach. He is a good friend of mine, too. But, no, and like what she just said, too, I mean, it's all relevant. It depends on the area, like we were talking about earlier, so...
And I do agree with that because I see both sides of Zach. And if you notice, after and this is true, you guys probably both know this. He lives in hell. Him and Aaron both live with many, many nasty attachments that they've picked up because when they started, they weren't real ghost hunters. I mean, they were just they're jacking around, being interested in stuff. Filmmakers wanted to make a documentary. They were just starting to do this. I mean, actually, Aaron was just a video guy. He's never even investigated. So they learned, but they learned the hard way. They picked up some nasty crap because of either disrespect or provoking or coming off as badasses, and that's what they're paying for it now, and they'll both tell you that. I'm friends with both. I'm more friends with Aaron than I am with Zach, but I've talked to Aaron the last couple events that I've been to for Dave Schrader's Darkness events, and I'm like, dude, I am so worried about you because you know what? They're going to take you over, because he said he sits in his family room and stuff flies out of his kitchen cupboards. That's why he's on the road so much. He's trying to get away from it. So is Zach. Zach spent the whole summer, half the summer in Monterey Bay because he wanted to get the hell out of his house. He wants to move. Unfortunately, they're going to go with. They will. And he's even built a dungeon in his room or in his basement, or I should say it's a separate room because he doesn't have a basement in Las Vegas. But he's built an environment for them to appease them. But on the other hand, I don't know, close to a year ago, he was pulled out of bed at 5 in the morning by his ankles by something he couldn't see. He doesn't even sleep in his room anymore. That's how bad it's gotten. So if you notice some of the newer shows that he does now, he even went back to Virginia City when he was making fun of that woman who committed suicide and cut her arm, slit her wrist. He went back in there and he said, you know what, I'm sorry. I want to apologize for how I treated you. So he's remorseful. He is remorseful. He learned the hard way, and he learned for the rest of his life because this will be with him for the rest of his life.
I'm glad you brought that out and pointed it out. I've got a lot of respect for all those guys, and they do a great job, and they have an entertaining show. And you're right, they did learn the hard way, and it's me and Drew, we've talked about it over and over and over. People watch this on TV and say, oh, that looks so cool, I can do that too. Yep. And they really have no idea what they're getting into. I've been spun around in my bed and jerked out of bed, and I've experienced all that, and I'm sure, you've had your experiences. I know Drew has. People out there listening that don't do this and don't have cause to do this, please don't. Yep. Just leave it alone. It's not for fun, and I guess I'll leave that one alone. And speaking on that tone, LeeAnna, how do you feel about these programs overall? I mean, not just Paranormal Challenge, but all the paranormal TV that's been so successful lately. I see a lot of good things come from it because now it gives a lot of us, people like yourself and Drew and I, the ability to do this publicly without, fear of complete ridicule. But then on the other hand, it encourages so many people that have no business doing this to go out and do it. So I'm kind of mixed on it. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a double-edged sword. I mean, really, realistically, many of us wouldn't be into what we are into today because of the shows. I mean, I started on Most Haunted, which is the group out of England. That's what all started it. They were there before the Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventures. In fact, Ghost Adventures kind of threw them off Travel Channel. They took over. I think that it was great that they came and they opened up the door for the rest of us. I mean, now it's more popular than ever, but on the downside, yeah, you got every Joe Schmo out there thinking, oh, man, I'm going to deal with a demon, man. I'm going to stand up to him. And it's like, really? You don't know what the repercussions are. You don't know what you're dealing with. You need to go in with some protection. I totally believe in protecting your team. We do a ritual before and after. You tell them you're not going to follow me home. You are not allowed to. You have to put your foot down. And yes, some of them do follow you home. And yes, there's bad things that can happen, and people don't realize it. I think now what they're starting to do is get some crazy stuff. It's like they're moving away from your good old ghost hunting. I mean, let's face it, Ghost Hunters is your basic old ghost hunting. GAC, they're really good at getting evidence and showing you how the equipment works. I mean, that's how I learned half my stuff from them. That's the good end of it. But now they're starting to stray from that because you don't have paranormal people deciding on these shows. You have networks. You have somebody in a department writing this, and they don't know anything about ghost hunting. They just want to exploit and get ratings. And so now they're coming out with newfangled stuff, and they're grabbing all sorts of weird things. And I think we're getting away from where it should have been and where it should stay. Actual ghost hunting, learning, respect, learning the equipment, evidence, instead of these newfangled ideas. I'm not a real fan of that new ghost mine. I'm kind of bored with it because how many times can you go in a mine? I don't know how long that'll last. I've got friends on Haunted Encounters. I respect them all. I might not agree with every way that they investigate, but I think everyone's looking for the latest and greatest. It's just like True TV. I don't know if you guys have watched that. That's like Hillbilly Haven, and I'm not cutting you down, Patrick, because you're Southern. It's like, these repo people and these guys who fight gators, and I mean, it's just like, really? I mean, how much trashy stuff can we find here? And I'm afraid that it's going to become that. It's going to become a circus. And it doesn't need to be a circus. Because then it's going to pull in every Dick, Moe, and Harry out there that just wants to get a thrill or just wants to get some crazy evidence, but they don't understand what that involves.
The true problem, in my opinion, LeeAnna, is that true paranormal research, what we actually go out and do, for the most part, is boring. Nobody wants to sit at home on a Friday night and watch somebody sit in a dark corner for an hour and a half. It's not good television.
It's not. I agree, and they have to be faking evidence. Some of these things just seem too real, don't they? Or they seem too fake, I should say. It seems like they're just trying to boost their ratings.
I can't speak for what's going on. I do know that I heard with Paranormal State that, they wanted Ryan Buell to start faking stuff, and that was one reason he left. He stood his ground, So I can't say that they're faking stuff. I really can't. I know that Zach tries really hard to really show you all the angles and explain everything. I personally, I don't know. The character that I know of him, and especially of Aaron, I don't believe that they would cut themselves and sell themselves just for evidence, because if you look in some of their shows, they don't get a whole hell of a lot. You'll see more of reenactments of the history than you will the actual investigation, because they might not have gotten a lot at that point. And just with Ghost Hunters, I don't believe those guys would fake anything. I think that they get pushed. The networks push them because they want the ratings. So, it's hard to say until you're in that position. A friend of mine, Brian Cano, he's on Haunted Collector. I mean, he'll be the first to say that they want you to sensationalize. They want you to overact and make everything look scarier than it is. But that's just part of the acting part of it. And you're going to get that with any TV show, even a reality show. You don't think some of those reality shows pump them people up to fight beforehand? You get these women of Orange County. I mean, it's like, okay, guys, we're going to have a lunch, but go ahead and have a cat fight. I mean, that's just part of reality TV. You're going to get that. I mean, but I'm just worried that it's just going to go the other, like I said, a circus. It's going to go very extreme just because they want ratings, and it's not going to be true ghost hunting. I find when I talk to people who are real avid fans, they're intrigued by watching sitting in a corner in the dark, believe it or not. You can't do it all night, but as long as they're learning something or they're getting a little spooked, believe it or not, people get spooked watching, and of course we don't. But, you know, they do. They're like, oh, my God, that scared the living hell out of me, you know. And I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up. But I do believe they do need an all-girl team out there on TV. They do, because, unfortunately, not everyone takes women seriously. And that's back to your question, Patrick. That's one thing that we're up against a lot is, you know, wow, you got these chicks, really, do they know what they're doing? Yeah, we do.
Discrimination, LeeAnna? Come on now. You can't have an all-girl team on the air. That'd be discrimination. What about us, right?
Well, the only thing I can say is that we wouldn't be there to sell sex, because there are girl teams out there that's what they're going for, and I don't think that's right. No, it's not. If you're an investigator, you're there to investigate. I don't care what color nail polish you got on or what jewelry or how high your boobs are sitting, you know. You're there to communicate with the spirits. You shouldn't be there for a beauty pageant. That's right. Just saying.
I hear you. You know, you sent us some great EVPs, too. You got a few here, and I'd like to start talking about these just a little bit, too. I'm going to play one, and I'm going to play it just run it through once, and you kind of talk about it, and then we can play it a couple more times so everybody can hear it. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, here we go.
Okay, you want me to talk about that?
Oh, let's play it one more time so everybody can kind of hear it one more time here.
Okay.
I definitely hear something. What do you think there, LeeAnna?
It's a little boy or a little girl saying, "What you get, Melanie?"
Wow, and where was this?
This was at back in Central City. It was an old building like they all are, but now it houses crafts and different merchandise. And that's where we first met our angel reader, Kelly. She reads people up on the second floor. And she had told us there was kids in there, and she had crossed two over. And so we figured, okay, we're not going to run into any children. So we were in a different part of the building, and we left a recorder right in the front. And this is a town that, you know, they closed down except for little casinos, but there's not little kids running around. And this was far enough in that you couldn't hear any road noise or anything from outside. And when I got home, I heard it, and I went, son of a gun, there's still kids in there, which I felt bad because I don't feel children should be trapped. And but, yeah, when you hear it with earbuds on, you can hear exactly what you get, Melanie. So there's still children roaming around there. Unfortunately, back in the 1800s, they had a lot of health epidemics, including scarlet fever. So there was many, many deaths. You go up into the cemeteries up there, and there's children buried all over the place. It's really sad.
That was clearly a child's voice. I couldn't tell for sure if it was male or female, but it definitely sounded like a child's voice. You know, you hear so much talk about, you know, different things with children. That in your experience there, that seems to be a legitimate child. Do you think there's mass quantities of child spirits running around there lost, or you think that it could be something there deceiving you, or?
Well, you know, that's a good point. I think if it was something there to deceive me, it would have reacted to a question of mine. Like I said, that was just a recorder that was left upstairs when we went down in the basement. So I think if it was a demon or, demonic entity that was pretending to be a child, it would have done it with an interactive EVP where I was asking it questions and it responded. One thing I have to tell you is we did cross a little boy over in the building 2 doors down. In the beginning, when I had my team, there was a little boy, or we found out later on it was a little boy that liked to truck around that whole place and mess with things. My teammates, their pants were being tugged on, and it was low. And I'm like, why the heck would you be? And they both felt it, and I'm like, why would it be something that low? And then I thought, well, are you the little boy that runs around here? We heard about you. And I said, do you need help getting to your mommy? If you need help, you need to tell me. And I got an EVP that says, I'm here. So I promised the little boy that I would bring back somebody to help them, and I left him a red ball to play with. And they found that ball everywhere. They found it everywhere. Every morning they'd come in, and that ball would be somewhere else. So we knew he was playing with it. So I talked to my angel reader, and I said, would you please help us? And she said yes. So it took us a couple hours to wrangle him up because he was afraid of her, and he kept on rotating around. And finally we got on one floor with the stage, and her and I sat up there, and she says, talk to him, LeeAnna. He feels comfortable with you. And I talked to him, and I said, honey, I told you I'd be back. I told you we're going to get you to your mom. And she works with Archangel Michael, and he's the one that is a protector, and he crossed him over, and she told me exactly what she saw, and it was a lot of crying afterwards, and we even got energies around her while she was doing it, light anomalies almost crashing into each other, so we knew they were there. And so, yeah, I think that I don't think there's anything trying to trick us. I think it's... Yeah, in that particular area, I think there's just a lot of kids that are stuck.
I have a curiosity. I don't know if you've done any research to reflect this or not. It's just kind of a curiosity thing. Have you found any evidence to indicate one way or another? Are there children there that are stuck alone? Maybe they passed before their parents did and didn't know what to do, or
there was. Well, actually, the two that the angel reader told us about said that they were just as stunned as she was that they could see each other. And she says, why are you here? And they said, Mommy and Daddy told us to stay here and they'd come back for us. And they never did. I talked to the Historical Society there. We have my really good friend there in that county. And, he can tell us that some things that have happened to the children there, many buildings with children that have died before their parents. Even in the museum, there was a little girl that the classmates made fun of. She was handicapped, and she got pushed out the second-story window. And we actually made contact with her. Her name was Emma during an investigation. So there is a lot of stories for children and documented pictures and everything of the children. It's amazing. And there's one place that we went to, they have an actual family portrait still up. And they can even tell you about the people who lived there because of the history that they have from that town. That was the richest square mile on earth at one point because they found so much gold there. So there was a lot of greed, there was a lot of prostitution, and there was a lot of death, and especially with the plagues on the children with the scarlet fever. Murders, too. We have one. We were the first team that was ever in a place in over 100 years. A gentleman was having an affair with a woman down in Denver. He lost his job. He was losing everything. He went back up the hill to be with his wife, laid in bed with her and told her all his, and this is all the stuff he admitted to the police in writing. Pulled out a gun and blew her away, covered her up, asked his son to come back in. Hey, honey, look out, look at the birdie outside. Blew him away. Laid him next to his mother and let them sit there and rot for 47 days till the cops found him and found them. And it's just you know.
It's horrible.
Yeah, a lot of bad things happened back then. And when you have it all happening in the same area over and over and over, if you could just imagine how many spirits. This gentleman the psychic that I met me in a little town, Morrison, right by where I live. And he's like, this is a freaking dumping ground here. You know how many vortexes you have here? And he's talking one-way vortexes. They can come through, but they can't leave. They can't go back. He said that this place is chock full. And I said, oh, I know it. I know it, and luckily he's clearing it right now because there's just so much bad things going on. It's starting to affect the people that live there. But it's just amazing when you get into a town that you can just circle around and do different locations, and you start running into the same spirits. We do that. We get, here's Murphy. We got one guy that goes to every location. He shows up on the Ovilus. It'll say Murphy, and then he'll say Central, and that's from Central City. It's like, hey, Murph, how's it going? And we're okay with that.
Yeah, but that brings me to another question, too, LeeAnna. Sometimes, we've seen a lot of times that a spirit or a demon can mimic. It can portray itself to be so many different things. How are you for certain that every once in a while that maybe Murphy isn't really Murphy, or that little boy is not the little boy? I mean, you got to have some doubt there sometimes. I mean, depending on the atmosphere. What do you think?
It's hard to say. We can't really say. The only thing that I can go by is my teammate Allie, who's a medium, and she'll tell me, and Tawny's sensitive enough, they'll say, something's not right here. This doesn't feel good. This spirit's angry. They can feel it. We have run into some that have physically done things to us. But some of this stuff's never happened when Murphy's shown up. So all I can do is go by the repetition of him showing up and think about what's happened during that. If he were to show up and then I would get attacked, or one of the girls would get attacked, we could maybe assume that he's playing a game, but nothing that's ever bad happened when he's shown up. So all I can do is put the puzzle pieces together, and it's basically what it is. We're constantly trying to figure things out and put the pieces together. And as investigators, that's what we do. I mean, we don't know for sure. We can speculate, we can guess. All we can go by is what we've already experienced and try to put the pieces together and make the story run all together if we can do that.
That's it, too.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I just wanted to, real quick, with the reoccurrence of this Murphy character popping up over and over and over, have you had an opportunity or have you asked him if he needed help and wanted help crossing over, or why he was there, or why he was showing up at so many locations, or have you gotten any more information on him?
The first time that we picked him up was at the museum at a poker table, and that's where we picked him up. And he said that he was in the service, he was a soldier, and then he said poker, and then he said general and all this stuff, and he kept on saying the word Murphy, and then he said Jim Murphy. I tried to do some background to find out if there was anyone in town that was well-known that documented anywhere. We couldn't find anything. Our next step is to try to locate, see if he's buried in one of the cemeteries. There's like 4 cemeteries. Now, the problem is with the Masonic cemetery, and I don't know if he's associated with the Masonics or not, they lost all their records in a file, the early records. So there's tombstones there that you can't even read anymore, and you have no idea who's there. So that kind of sucks because it's like that kind of chops off our research in certain areas. I've never really come right out and asked him, do you want to go? Do you need help? I just usually say, hey, Murph, how's it going? Hey, buddy. It's just weird. He shows up at every place, but I would imagine that if he needed help, he would have said so. He would have said help on the Ovilus, because that's how they communicate the most with us. So I guess what I could do is the next time around he shows up, start asking questions. It's just so hard because he always pops in when we're talking to somebody else or we're getting some good activity. It's like, I don't know if he wants the attention or what, but that's
might be the goofball of the other side, right?
I don't know. Well, and there again, the word Paul comes up. My dad's name is Paul, and Power 14 always comes up with his name. And he shows up at everything. So I don't know if it's my dad or not, and I've questioned him, So I don't know. I don't know if we've got an old woman named Harriet Pierce, and I'm trying to find out where she's buried. She's been showing up, too. And I'm like, okay, well, we've got some stragglers here. Once we we get into another place in that area, if they show up, thanks for letting me know that. I will try and ask them if they need help, if that's why they keep on coming around. I don't get a feeling anything bad from them. I just think they're interested and they're bored to death or something. Because Murphy even showed up at Buffalo Bill's grave in Golden, Colorado, which is not near Central City. So he even showed up there.
That is one of the most amazing sights I've ever seen. I love that area up there. It's just beautiful.
Isn't it?
Oh, it's incredible. I've been there a few times. Pat, you got to get down there one of these days and check it out. It's just incredible.
I'd love to. I've not been out that way very much, but the little bit that I have seen, I've loved and would definitely love to get out that way, especially in Colorado. I've never been. Your issue there with clearly, I've heard a lot of people that they're inclined to believe, LeeAnna, for some reason, and I've never understood this, that spirits are trapped and confined to a certain location. Mm-hmm. And clearly, this is an obvious indication that that's not the case.
Exactly.
I don't know where that started. I actually saw a comment one time that there was a team that quit following Ryan Buell's work because of him claiming to have, encountered the same entity at more than one location. And they thought that was absurd, and I thought it was absurd to think that, any spirit energies trapped to, any square footage anywhere. It's,
I mean, think about it. If we're gonna go on the dimensions level, why would anyone think the dimension's 4x4 and that's all that this spirit can go? I truly believe that they can travel, and the reason I say that is because what I've experienced. I can go to a different location in town, and the same spirit will show up. So I think they rotate just like they did back in the days. There's tunnels that connect the city together. All back in the day, I don't know what they used them for. I think it was in the wintertime so they could go back and forth, because they used to put a lot of bodies in these basements of these buildings to keep them cold because the ground was frozen and they couldn't bury them. They didn't have a caterpillar to go out there and dig into the ground. Right. So, I truly think that they rotate, and we found this to be true. So, I've heard the same thing, to where they could be trapped in one room or they can't go anywhere off the property. So there again, that's another question for us. But I do think that there are some that can manipulate enough in travel. And I also believe that they learn. I think they become stronger and they learn depending on how much energy they have. Just like these guys that manifest and the shadow people. They say those are dark energies. Well, those are powerful energies also. They can manifest.
But, you got to look at the simple fact, too, that, maybe they're realizing, hey, you know what, we don't have to hide like we used to have to hide. People are starting to accept that we're here, that there is life after death. I mean, what was it, the day before yesterday we found out the world wasn't flat? I mean, things change, right?
Right. And, it's funny that you say that, because I had a couple call me last month flipping out. They just found our name on one of the society pages, and I'm glad she called me, though, because I talked her out of doing an investigation. See, I'm not gung-ho about exploiting anything. And I said, you really want to go and let them know that you really, we're going to open a door here. Are you sure you want to do this because you're living there? And what had happened was she had sent me a picture, and she'd seen this guy all over her house, even outside, and they found out later on they lived on plantation land. And even the neighbors have seen this guy, this big shadow guy. He posed for her. She was taking a picture of this bottle of booze that they got from some country, and in the background there's this huge mass, and they sent it to me, and I zoomed in, and I could see faces I saw 2 or 3 little children. I saw a woman. It was like the whole gang was there for the picture. And she was telling me how they hear little kids in the basement all the time, and I mean, it just matched up to everything she was telling me. And I'm like, they want you to know they're here. They're posing for a frickin' picture. It was unbelievable. And I said, they're okay with you if you're okay with them. Now, if you're going to start having issues and they're going to hurt you, then we're going to have to do something. But if you can coexist and respect each other, then I don't see a problem, and I don't see why we need to come in, because that's just going to open up a can of worms.
I think the thought process of some that spirits were confined to a certain location maybe come about that they feel that they're trapped or stuck in a certain place because of something happening in that place. Perhaps they died there or murdered there, killed somebody there, what have you. And I'm with you. I don't believe that at all. But I was wanting to get your take on, why do you think that spirits, do you think they're here by choice? Do you think that some of them perhaps are forced to stay here? Do you think it's completely by choice? What's your thoughts on that? What's your research led you to believe there?
I think that they're, if it's a sudden death, I think that they're afraid to go anywhere. I've been told that the window of opportunity to go to the light is only there for so long. I believe that a lot of them choose to stay there. Some of them don't even know they're dead, or some of them say, hell no, I'm not going anywhere. This is my home. And it was really weird because I had a conversation with Dave this weekend on that, and I said, are they trapped? And he said, or do they choose? And he said they choose. And I said, why would anyone choose that? He goes, let me put it to you this way. You got Joe Bumpkin here who sits on his porch all day long. He isn't a religious man. He doesn't even know about the light. He doesn't know about any of that. And he dies in his chair one day of a heart attack. So this light comes down, and he's like, what the hell's that? I'm going to sit here in my chair. I'm not going anywhere. Window of opportunity goes. Now Joe's stuck on his porch. And I really had to think about that when he told me that, because I'm like, wow, I never thought about it that way. And he said, yeah, there's a lot of them that just don't know what to do.
Well, and that comes back to another question, too. Let's say they do know what to do, but there's that possibility that they fear judgment, or that they still have unfinished business. I mean, there's a million ways you can go with that, too.
And he did say that. He goes, there are some, and we already ran into this at that murder house. It was actually the murderer that was still there watching us when I brought my angel reader back, because I thought that the mom and the son were still there, because one got inside of me and all I could do was cry. Me and my medium both cried. And we're like, who the hell is this? We thought it was the kid or the mom. And I'm like, I'm going to get you help. I'm going to get you help. And I brought the angel reader back, and she said, LeeAnna, that was the murderer that was in you. I'm like, oh, great. Why? And she goes, because he feels remorse. She says, but he doesn't want to move on because he wants to punish himself. And I asked Dave that this weekend. I said, he goes, some of them just, they feel this is their punishment. So and plus they're scared to be judged. They're scared to go to God and say, yeah, I was an asshole, and I hurt people, and I killed people, and I raped people. They don't want to face what they've done. So they would rather just be coward and stay here and not face the music, so that it's their punishment.
Yeah,
totally.
Absolutely. Hey, LeeAnna, I want to jump in. There's another EVP I just got to get out. I want to play.
Okay.
I'm going to play it twice, and I want you to explain this one. I just love it, okay?
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Office area here, point 3. Get out. This is an office area here, point 3. Get out.
Wow.
Kind of creepy, huh?
That's enough to put your arm hair standing straight up. I think mine are right now, as a matter of fact. So.
This was in that same place where we got the little boy, or the little girl, whatever it was, child. This place had layers. They had a basement. There was a gentleman we ran into who blew himself up accidentally. He was a miner, and he was into explosives, and he was charging something and blew the place, the below area, blew himself up. Then you've got the level. It's got like 4 different levels. So here we are going through all the levels. We're getting activity everywhere we go. We get up to the top floor, which was offices for a casino, and now they're empty. And we just walked right into the door. It pegged a .3 feel the energy because I feel it all the time. That's one thing about me. I light up like a Christmas tree. And then you hear, I don't want you here. And I'm like, I didn't even hear it at that point. I didn't hear that, and that's pretty loud. And we picked it up on audio and video. So when we showed the clients that, they never went back up there. They were the women were scared because they're like, that doesn't sound very friendly.
I have to bring this up because I was trying so hard not to laugh. It reminds me of Ahmed, from Jeff Dunham there, He had a pre-detonation there, That's all I can think about. And I'm sorry, I just had to get it off my chest. But, poor guy. I mean, that's why you don't play with explosives in your bedroom or your basement, I guess. It's probably not a good idea.
I'm sorry, Drew, but I'm going to urge you to take notice of that one. So, and that's all.
Hey now, I play with mine outside. All right. I don't think. Yeah. I don't need one going off in the condo. That'd be a bad day. So.
I'm waiting for a producer to call me any day and tell me that Drew has blown himself up. So.
It's always possible. That's why I thought it was so funny. But no, that was a great EVP. And actually, we got one more I want to shoot out here real quick. So we're going to play that one.
Okay.
Did you girls hear a door shut?
I heard something downstairs.
Oh, it was downstairs? Okay.
And this is administrative offices.
That was great.
Where was this one at?
Okay, let me set this one up. This will be a My Ghost story, hopefully. This is at the Gilpin County Courthouse and Jail, and this was actually done through the walkthrough with an employee there, Josie Wales. Josie has become possessed by the spirit in the basement because he's worked there 17 years, and he feels so comfortable and has a rapport with the spirit, and it's starting to take him over. But that's a whole nother story there. He was actually taking us through everything, and when we were on the second floor, we heard a door, and I said, okay, well, let's go in this one room, and then we're going to check it out later on, because we're doing interviews on film of the activity. We weren't doing the actual investigation. So when we came around, I said, did you guys hear that door? I think it was back here. And Tawny says, no, I heard it downstairs. And then Josie started to talk, and then you hear, where's the stairs? So there again, that kind of validates that this spirit never saw any stairs. So what is he seeing? He's like, where's the stairs? Really? There's stairs here? I didn't know that. And here's this grand old staircase right there next to us. So that makes you think right there, what did they see? He saw us, he heard us, but he didn't know where the stairs were at.
He was definitely intelligent. You can't argue that.
Yep.
Yeah, it goes back to the point to exactly what is it that they're seeing? What are they encountering? Obviously, it's smart, intelligent activity that recognized you, heard your voice, responded to it, but can't see what's physically there. I wonder if it's a different vibrational frequency or...
Yeah. I think it's got, I'm sure the veil between us was thin to where he could see us or hear us. Maybe he couldn't even see us. Maybe he could just hear us. And then he's like, well, where's the stairs? Like, where the hell are you guys? We're not in the same building. Or he died before the building was even there. So he never
That's
saw
always
any
such
stairs.
a huge possibility. It is. Most houses, in one time or another have been torn down and rebuilt. There's very few, from the early 1800s or whenever that are still standing. Where we're sitting right now, we sit on the Sand Creek Massacre. It's a huge, you know all about that, LeeAnna, the Sand Creek Massacre, I'm sure.
Yep.
You don't?
Oh, no, I do. I'm sorry.
Oh, you do? Okay. Yeah,
Yep.
That's what I figured. And, it's all through here in Cheyenne. It's, there's so many areas that people are like, well, my house is brand new. Why is it haunted? Well, the ground's here before the house.
Right. And that's true. In that particular location, the home that was there before was by a man who basically owned half the town, Mr. Teller, which he owns the Teller House, which is famous. It has the haunted face on the floor, blah, blah, blah. That was the site where his house was, and he had sold the house, and they mowed it down, and they built this courthouse. So who knows if that was even him, you know? And he's like, well, I didn't have stairs in my house, so where's these stairs at? So, you know, but that just validates that this spirit could hear us. Maybe he just couldn't see where we were at, but he was responding exactly what we were talking about.
Probably when he's yelling at his wife right about then saying, damn, honey, when did you have stairs put in? Tell me these things.
I'm going to backstep a little bit. It reminds me of an investigation I did recently, and it was weird because everybody's, you know, familiar with the tuberculosis outbreak in Kentucky with, you know, Waverly Hills and everything. I did an investigation not too long ago, and I got a date, and about a month later the homeowner called me and reminded me of that date that I'd given her, and she had done some research on her own and found out that there was a cholera outbreak in the area, and a lot of people died. And through our research and investigation, we discovered that there was a family there. It was a man, woman, and child, a young female. And they appeared to me through the investigation that they knew they were dead, and they knew that wasn't their home, but had indicated that that's where they had lived when they were alive. And to me, I don't have any, you know, investigation to back it up, and I've got to go back. But I've got the distinct impression that they died within a relatively short period of time, one to another. But when one passed, they stayed around waiting on the others. Mm-hmm. And like you said, LeeAnna, that time frame's only there so long.
Right. And
once it's passed, it's passed. And, you know, once one or two, you know, had died and stayed and waited for the other, then they couldn't leave. Right. And they all just, now they stay there together.
Yeah, and, you know, we ran into that in Morrison at this store, which used to be, it's really funny, it's like a Grateful Dead store right now. It's like a head shop down at the foot of Red Rocks Amphitheater. I know Drew's heard of that.
Not in Colorado. Head shops? No. Come on now.
You know that mountain folk. Anyway, so, yeah, we could pick up something. Both Tawny and Allie said there's a nasty man here, and they could actually see him. And we went into what used to be the meat locker, because it used to be a grocery store, and now it's a changing room. And we got all sorts of responses, even on the spirit box, of the children of this guy. He had a tight rein over his whole family religiously, and one was 42 years old and was still there. So there again, here you have ones that have died and are waiting for the others. We brought our angel reader in, and she cleared everybody out except for the angry dad, because he didn't want to go, and boy was he pissed. Oh, he was mad. He's like, she had to restrain him with one of the angels to get the kids to cross over, and even the adults, because this guy had such a reign, and they kept on asking her, what's Dad going to do? What's Dad going to do? And we're like, don't worry about him. If he wants to come, he can come. If not, you need to go. So you can't stay here and wait for him anymore. This is your opportunity. Go to the light. You have to go. But there again, you're right. They're waiting around for the rest of their relatives, and their opportunity passes. And until somebody like us comes in, or an angel reader, or somebody that can do this and bring this light down, they're stuck. And it's sad. It's sad.
It is. It's horribly sad. But you see it all the time. I mean, like the big TB outbreak that happened years ago. I mean, everybody died in these hospitals, thousands upon thousands of people, and they seem to be the most haunted areas, you know, across the country. And you see it just repeat itself. That, yeah, I agree with you completely, LeeAnna, that they're just waiting, you know, for the other family members to cross. There's definitely that possibility.
Yep. And it's just, you know, and I'm to the point now, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but you know, I saw my first apparition when I was in 5th grade, so I've always been consumed with the other side ever since I was a kid. My other two teammates have gone through the same thing when they were little. Connie is of Cherokee heritage, And her grandfather, she used to see him all the time at her grandmother's house, and her grandmother could see, too. She was a medium. And then when her dad and mom found out, they punished her and said, we don't want you talking about this. We don't want you saying anything to telling us what Grandma's doing. And so she was really shunned for a long time and stifled on her abilities. And then Allie was, too, because Allie's mom didn't believe in anything, and she used to have spirits in her closet and everything. And to this day, she really hasn't told her family, what she believes in. But the more that we do this, and I don't know if you guys go through this, the more sensitive we become. Haven't you noticed that? The more that you're around it?
Absolutely.
You can feel it when you walk into a building. I mean, I've been doing it for 13 years, and you can honestly you feel it. You just know. You just feel it all around you. And you can, I agree completely, LeeAnna. Yeah, you get more sensitive to it.
Yeah, and I'm more into right now to try to heighten as much as I can. I mean, I know this is probably crazy, but I would love to be able to be in a situation where I could actually see and talk to them. Although, you got to be careful what you wish for. Because, once you turn that on, you may never be able to turn it off.
Be careful what you ask for here, LeeAnna. I think I got one coming up that you're not too far away from, so be careful what you ask for.
And Patrick, by the way, I just have to ask you this.
Sure.
Are you there, Patrick? How is your pink car doing?
Yes.
No comment from the peanut gallery?
I have no pink car.
I saw it on the internet. I saw the picture of it.
My illustrious co-host, partner, and best friend, and we declare brotherhood.
But it matches my gun that he gave me, so it works out okay.
You mean your Hello Kitty gun?
Yeah, my Hello Kitty gun with my matching little my little manicure that he got me too. I liked that one.
I fortunately stymied the tagging pictured war with threats of photoshopping some very nice pictures of Drew, and we finally put that one to rest. But
now, anyways.
Yeah.
Anyways. But, you guys were talking about running into some nasty stuff. Luckily, I haven't had anything nasty come home with me. Tawny has, to the point where she was sitting in her apartment, and she had a Chinese screen that just up and flew across the room. And she called us frantically, and her boyfriend called us and said she's not the same person. And she knew it, too. And that's after we did the Gilpin County Jail. That'll be a My Ghost story. So that nasty guy kind of followed us home. So we had to cleanse her, but she's still got something going on. Luckily, I don't have that. The good ones like to come home with me. The bad ones like to come home with her. So, and I think she's okay. She's okay with it to a point, though, because she's got that little bit of a dark side to her where I'm not. Well, I'm more worried because I have my son living with me, and I'm not going to jeopardize him for being irresponsible for what I'm doing.
Well, I'll not name the person to protect the innocent, but I stayed with a friend a few days before I moved into my apartment, and I'd been there maybe a week, and after 2 or 3 days, they came to me and they said, "You've got to leave."
Yeah.
And things were flying off counters, and different things were happening, and I said, "Well, you're fine. Nothing's going to hurt you." But it was an experience. And fortunately for me, I've almost in every instance had something follow me after every single investigation, and it's normally stuck with me. I've never had anything negative go home with my daughter. I've never had anything negative go home with my lead investigator or other people. So, and I don't mind it so much. I've learned to deal with it over the years, and I don't know why it's attracted to me so much, but I've experienced that a lot. And going back to the childhood thing, me and Drew were in the same boat, and the more teams we talk to and the more people in the paranormal field we talk to, we find that that's the case. I'd say the vast majority of us, except for the thrill seekers who, watch one too many episodes of ghost hunters, but most of us that are out there trying to do legitimate research for the right reasons have childhood experiences as well, and it leads me to think that it's kind of a calling, and we're almost selected for it. What do you think there?
I believe that, and I think that, let's face it, anyone who's in this has to have an open mind. Even though we're skeptics to a point, because, of course, we want to be able to debunk and we want to be able to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt from what we can see that we're actually picking up paranormal activity. We just don't want to put a tag on it and say, oh, it's paranormal, which there are a lot of teams that do that. Oh, yeah, it's paranormal. And it's like, really? Let's look at this again. I think that we're just open-minded people, and if we experience that as a child, let's face it, children are not corrupt to that point, especially the little ones. They see this stuff where we've been conditioned over the years to say, oh, no, it's not real. But children and animals can see these things because they're innocent. And I think when I was in 5th grade, and back in my day in 5th grade was pretty innocent, opposed to what the kids now in 5th grade are, but truly, honestly. But, I couldn't deny it. And all 3 of us saw it, and we were jacking around with Ouija boards and seances in 5th grade.
Oh.
Okay, that's what started the whole thing. We opened so many doors, and we had no idea. And seances were huge with us, and we were getting good at it. And we didn't even understand what we were doing. And there was this woman who was a babysitter, and she killed the infant she was watching, and then killed herself. And we heard it on the news, so we started drumming this woman up, and we did. I mean, we all looked up. We saw her sitting in a rocking chair with the baby in her arms and a knife in her hand. And we all just screamed and ran upstairs. And it took me until maybe 2 months ago, I finally got a hold of one of the gals, because I've been wanting to talk to her all these years. And she found out what I was into on Facebook, and she's like, what? Why are you into this? And I'm like, don't you remember? She's like, yeah, I remember us being scared, but I don't remember why. And I'm like, wow, you blocked it out? I haven't. I can see it to this day. I could draw it for you. I mean, it's been with me ever since.
Wow.
But
it's amazing. I pointed out to a coworker today, and I see, it's my belief that everybody has paranormal experiences regularly, and in fact, I don't even think they're paranormal experiences. I think they're very normal. I think that the vast majority of people have been conditioned to tune all this stuff out over the years.
Yeah.
And they don't. I mean, it's like, for instance, let's say you're married and you have 2 kids. You come home from work one day and you put object X on table Y, and now it's on your son's dresser. Nobody's going to think that that's paranormal or have any reason to think so. With multiple people typically living in a house, you just don't. You're not going to recognize, and I know that's kind of an off-the-wall example, but there's I think a lot of things people see regularly. I had a non-believer tell me that they had seen a shadow person in their hallway over and over and over, and I was like, well, how do you explain that? And they said, well, I think I was just dreaming. So we've been conditioned to tune this stuff out and to forget about it and write it off and dismiss it, and I think that's, it's starting to change, but it's a slow, long process.
Well, I mean, and there again, it's changing because it's socially acceptable now, and it's on TV. Right. I mean, you see evidence, you see the reaction of how their bodies are reacting to energy and the instruments, and it's like, pa-boom, all this stuff's out there now, and it's exploded, and people are like, wow, maybe that could really happen. The skeptics, yeah, they'll always be skeptics because they don't want to open their mind to it. They don't. It could be flat in their face. They could have a spirit talk to them right in front of them, and they'd still blow it off as some other reason why it happened. But the people that always kind of maybe thought now are really thinking about it, and once you start opening your mind to it, it's more of an acceptance. And I think things have totally changed from 10 years ago. In that respect for the average person, not ghost hunters, but the average person who never gets to experience any of this. You guys there? Hello? Drew?
That's weird.
What was
Can
that?
you hear me?
Let me tell you something really quick.
That was strange.
They mess with my phone all the time, just so you know.
You know, LeeAnna, I tell you, it's absolutely amazing how many problems I have with phones, and it's, you know, and not on a normal basis, but anytime I'm talking about the paranormal or ghosts or, you know, what have you, I have anything electronic around me kind of goes haywire. So
does the same here. And my friends don't believe me, and me and my one teammate will talk, and then all of a sudden the phone will start and she's just, there's been times where I've heard voices and breathing over it, and I don't have a party line, you know.
Right, exactly.
It's crazy.
Well, just last night I had a new request come in for an investigation, and the lady that emailed me.
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
We can hear you now.
Okay, there was technical difficulties there. Go ahead, Pat.
No, just the lady that emailed me said that, you know, right after she emailed me her request, she emailed me two more because she didn't know what was. Her email went nuts. Just the second she hit send with the initial email, her whole email system went crazy. She was getting emails, sending emails, and she didn't know where they were going, and she didn't know where they were coming from, and so that's pretty typical for us.
Well, and that just goes together hand in hand with the fact that we use electronics to deal and communicate with these spirits. That they know electricity. We're all electricity, whether alive or dead. We're electricity.
You know, it's funny because we were talking about the Ouija board. Huh, Pat? Was our second show, and this happened to us too. So.
Yeah, every time we talk about the Ouija board on this show.
Really?
Every time
everything goes
every
haywire.
time it's mentioned, we have technical problems.
Guess the old Ouija board doesn't want us cutting it down, huh? That's like I posted on my site the other day. Somebody had, I think it was Scott Gruenwald. He was on the Paranormal Challenge. He posted this pink Ouija board, and he says, well, because we're making it pink, using it to summon a demon is okay because it's pink. What will they come up with?
I actually saw an advertisement somebody had posted the other day for children's toys, and it had a little girl over top of a pink Ouija board, and it had Drew, I think I sent you a picture of it, and I don't remember the other games involved, but it was in a grouping of different children's games, and it was like the featured game.
I saw that.
Yeah, that blew me. I lost my mind when I saw that. I couldn't imagine, and it was a little tiny miniature version, like, you know, for 5 or 6 year old girls.
And people just don't get it. You know, it's like we did this home investigation. It's actually a friend of mine and her 2 teenagers. And as we went further into talking to them, and you guys can still hear me, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I just never know when nothing's good. Both of them had problems in their closets, and both of them, that's where their Ouija boards are at.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell are you doing with the Ouija board? I said, you throw those away now. Get them the hell out of the house, and don't ever use them again. But there was a connection there. All the stuff that was happening with their closets, the activity they had, they both had Ouija boards. And the mom took them away once and put it in her closet, and she had activity in her closet too. So right there, it was a connection. And we've got some film that you guys have got to see, the light apparitions or the light anomalies we got in that house, because we usually do a full investigation. We find the hot spots, and we put up our IR cameras. We have a DVR system, and we leave the location for an hour. We just sit out in the car. And believe it or not, things come cruising around after that. And we got this light anomaly that was going in and out of the walls. So you know it wasn't a bug, and it wasn't a lightning bug, because we don't have those here in Colorado, and it was during the winter. And it was just unbelievable. And it was their bedrooms. It was going in and out of their bedrooms, and that the whole upstairs where they had all their activity. But there again, the good old Ouija board, people don't realize the doors.
I had a guy overheard me talking about the paranormal. I believe it was yesterday. I lose track of time. I think it was yesterday. And he kind of stepped over and he says, "Oh, I believe." And we kind of looked at him and waited for him to tell his story. And yet, lo and behold, him and a friend did a seance with a Ouija board in like some type of storage building. He says, "I can't go in there at night anymore." And I said, "Well, what'd you do with the board?" He says, "Well, it's still in there." He says, "I can go in there during the day, but I go in there at night." And he said, I get hit and things are flying. And he said, "You can't even open the door at night." And I said,
yeah,
leave that stuff alone.
And and I can only say from experience, because I used to indulge as a child and the things that happened to us. I mean, there's more than just that apparition that happened that that I know the other two probably closed off, but I didn't. I just kept it in my brain. But people just don't realize. And I was up at the Stanley, and this girl bid on a room for an investigation, a private investigation, and they asked myself and my friend to come. And I walk in, and she's got a damn Ouija board sitting on the bed. And I said, "What?" No. And I put it in the drawer, and she was ticked. She's like, "All it is a toy. It's just a cardboard." And I said, "You don't get it, do you?" No, I was livid after that, because she was just, she just didn't believe in any of this stuff. And I'm just like, you just don't know what you're dealing with, guys, and I do. So I'm not going to put myself in harm's way because of it.
Yeah, I've used the board one time, and it was years ago, and it was before I was investigating, and the experience was personal, and I'll keep it that way. But it was bad, it was negative, and afterwards, actually we put the board away, and when we moved, the board was no longer there. So I don't even know what happened to the board. It actually disappeared. Nobody ever touched it again. Nobody ever used it again. It was put up in a storage closet with other games. All the other stuff was still there. It was not. And I'm glad it's gone. I don't know where it went to, but maybe it knew it was getting trashed, and it hid. I don't know. It's something that should not be messed with by anyone for any reason, and I just hate the things, and they're marketed as a toy, and people that don't know.
Well, and now, they're trying to market them, like I said, this pink one, so that they can get little girls, because little girls are into it. Little boys really don't care unless they're teenagers. Little girls like to play with stuff like that. I really think that girls are more psychically inclined and more into the paranormal than the guys at a young age. Except I would assume the teenager boys would like that because they think it's cool. But I just see. I know when I was younger, us girls were always messing with that stuff. Always. Did you guys ever do light as a feather, stiff as a board?
I've seen it done. I haven't participated myself, but
as little girls, we had slumber parties, and that's what we would do.
Sure.
Hey, LeeAnna, I hate to stop you in the conversation here. Would you give a quick shout out for your team and how they can get a hold of you if they need you? We're done.
Sure. I'm with Spirit Realm Investigative Project. If you guys just plug that in to Facebook, you'll get our Facebook page. We'd love to have you like our page and follow us and all the upcoming news, investigations. We also have a YouTube channel. Just plug in SRIP 3. That's SRIP 3. That's our abbreviations, and you can see some of our evidence, our videos, our EVPs. We are going to be on the My Ghost Story. We're episode 60, so if you look on your guide and it says what number, try to figure it out from there, because they have not given us an air date. They said sometime in the spring. Also, if you Google us, you even put in USS Hornet, you can pull up the actual Paranormal Challenge, and anything on us should pull up at that point if you can't remember Spirit Realm Investigative Project. But, try to support us. We're 3 girls. We're going to stay 3 girls. It works for us. Maybe we'll go somewhere someday in our ventures. We don't know, but right now we're just really into helping spirits and crossing them over if need be, and trying to get evidence to prove to everybody that it does exist.
Fantastic, LeeAnna, and thank you so much for being on the air. You're a dear friend. You're a great investigator. Can't wait to have you back on the show coming up soon. Hopefully you'll come back on with us.
Sure, no problem. I had a good time. And Patrick, sorry about rubbing in that pink car to you.
No problem, LeeAnna. I'll forgive you this time.
Okay.
Well, LeeAnna, thank you so much again for being on the show, and we'll talk to you next time, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thank
All right,
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, Pat. What a great show, huh?
Fantastic guest. I loved having her on. Hope she comes back, and we've got a lot more to cover with her from her information that we didn't even get to touch on, but great guest.
Absolutely. And, next week we got a great show, you guys. We got Gary Price coming on the air next week. He's got a brand new book out called Amid the Shadows. It looks like one of the best books I've seen in a long time about the paranormal. He's going to be a fantastic guest. So you guys please tune in next week. We look forward to having you guys back on the show. Thank you all for listening. And thank you for going beyond the line with me and Mr. Patrick McKenzie. We will see you next week. Good night, you guys.